So now you have heard about history taking and the various how to analyze various symptoms. I'll be talking about mainly stressing on science. So our examination starts right when the patient walks into a consultation room. You can assess the vision, you can assess the whether the patient is having any restricted field, etc. So once when the patient sits in front of you, you can see for any abnormal head postures like face turn, head tilt, etc. So all these point to some certain type of squint. So you can focus a further examination according to that. Now we'll do a torchlight examination. Torchlight examination is very important, and the torchlight should not be very bright. It should not make the patient uncomfortable, and try to shine the torch from the sides to the center. You can do an overall examination of the eye, the face, because you may miss some certain subtle signs like mild proptosis, as in this case. And also you can watch for any hemifacial spasms, any facial asymmetry, etc. Now we'll move on to the eye examination. You can always go in a systematic manner, starting from the lids to the retina. Otherwise, there is a general practice that the PGs will straight away look for the pupillary reaction, the lens. So we always start from the lids to the retina. You can go for, you can see if there is any mild ptosis, any lid retraction. You can go for, see for any lid margin abnormalities like ectropion, entropion. Patient may be giving vague histories like burning sensation, grittiness, and the main problem may be this. Now coming to conjunctiva, you should have an overall examination of the conjunctiva, not only just the bulbar conjunctiva. You have to look for the bulbar, palpebral conjunctiva, and the fornicis. So the lower palpebral conjunctiva and the fornicis can be looked. You can ask the patient to look up, and you have to draw the lower lid downwards. Then superior palpebral conjunctiva can be seen by everting the lid, and superior fornicis can be seen by double eversion using a Desmais retractor. So what all should we look for? You can see for any congestion. If you see congestion, see whether it is unilateral or bilateral. See whether the congestion is circumcorneal congestion or a conjunctival congestion. Why is it important? Circumcorneal congestion, conjunctival congestion, the congestion will be more towards the fornicis, as in a conjunctivitis, whereas the circumcorneal congestion, the congestion is more towards the limbus, around the limbus. So if you see a circumcorneal congestion, that means you are dealing with some sight-threatening condition like keratitis or uveitis. Now, next, you have to look for foreign bodies. If the patient is complaining of foreign body sensation, you have to avert and see that is a common site for the upper tarsal conjunctiva is a common site for foreign body enlargement. Then also see for other findings like follicles, papillae. You can also sometimes see these dilated episcleral vessels, which can be a sign of intraocular tumors like melanoma. So sentinel vessels is also an important finding. If you see such a finding, you have to go for further detailed evaluation. Now, sclera, you can look for nodules that is seen in nodular scleritis. You can see for in discoloration, like this is a slate grade discoloration, what you see in ocular melanosis. Also, you can see blue sclera. You can look for staphyloma, which is bulging of thinned out sclera along with the uveal tissue. Now, sclera, but you should also not miss subtle changes like you can see minimal discoloration. This is thinning of the sclera due to recurrent scleritis. And also it can be a marker of some systemic diseases like jaundice. The cornea, you should see for size, surface, transparency, sensation. Regarding the size, it can be congenital. There can be congenital problems like microcornea. You can have larger corneas like megalocornea. But always you have to compare with both the eyes. If it's a unilateral condition, you can compare with both the eyes. If you see a larger cornea, then always you should rule out buphtalmos. That is buphtalmos. It is associated with congenital glaucoma. You should ask for history of symptoms like, the child can have watering, blepharospasm, or photophobia. You should ask for that. And also in cornea, you can get a corneal haze, and also look for the limbal enlargement that is specific for buphtalmos. So if you see symptoms, signs suggestive of buphtalmos, you should go for further examination like intraocular pressure, fundus examination. This should be done under general anesthesia. Now, regarding corneal surface, the corneal surface, we are mainly dealing with the curvature of the cornea. curvature of the cornea, you can have a conical protrusion as in keratoconus. And in a busy OPD, you can just see the reflex of the window panels onto the cornea. You can see the images of the images in the cornea, and you can compare with both the eyes, or you can use a Placidus disc. Now, corneal examination is not complete unless we look for a sensation. You can use a wisp of cotton and compare with both the eyes, and you get a decreased corneal sensation in conditions like leprosy, viral keratitis, or trigeminal nerve paralysis. Now, vascularization. Vascularization can be superficial and deep, but if you get you can get a localized vascularization sometimes in a healing corneal ulcer, and that is not going to affect vision much. But if you get a diffuse vascularization like this, then that is going to affect vision. So you have to ask for history of chemical injuries, keratitis, etc. Now coming to anterior chamber, you have to look for the depth and the contents of the anterior chamber. Regarding depth, you can see, you can look for the eclipse sign. What is eclipse sign? With the torchlight, you just shine light onto the temporal aspect and see whether the light is reaching up to the nasal limbus. So if it is a normal depth, the light reaches up to the nasal limbus. But in case of shallow anterior chamber, there is bowing forward of the iris and you get a crescentic shadow in the nasal limbus. So that is the eclipse sign. What is the importance? If you see a shallow anterior chamber and suppose the patient is diabetic and he requires dilatation for diabetic retinopathy, so you should be cautious in dilating such a patient. He may end up in acute angle closure attack. So you have to do a gonioscopy before dilatation. You can also get irregular anterior chamber depth in case of subluxation of lens or iridocyclitis. Now regarding the contents, the most important is hypopyon. Usually, hypopyon, it is a collection of inflammatory cells in the anterior chamber, and it is usually associated with keratitis, corneal ulcers. But you also get pseudohypopyon as in lens-induced glaucomas, you get in intraocular tumors, etc. Now, regarding iris, you can look for the color, pattern, and synecdoche. Regarding the color, there can be a heterochromia, the difference in color in both the eyes. And if you get a hyperpigmentation of the iris, that is that shows that there is a chance of siderosis, that is iron, because of the iron deposition seen in iron intraocular foreign bodies. And you also may get a hypopigmented iris, that is suggestive of congenital Horner syndrome and Fuchs iridocyclitis. So if you see such a finding, you should further examine for iridocyclitis. Now regarding the pattern, you get a radial pattern because of the crypts. But sometimes the pattern will be lost in iridocyclitis. They usually call it a muddy iris. And also you can get synecdoche, which are just adhesions between the iris and the anterior lens capsule, or you may get nodules. These are all suggestive of uveitis. Now, pupil examination, you should look for direct and consensual reaction. But most important is the relative afferent pupillary defect. This can be detected by a swinging flashlight test. So during the swinging flashlight test, if you get a dilated pupil, dilatation of the pupil instead of constriction, that means you are dealing with some optic nerve disease. So it is commonly seen in optic nerve diseases like optic neuritis, ischemic optic neuropathy, or you may get it in occlusions like central retinal artery occlusion, venous occlusion, then retinal detachments, gross macular pathologies. So RAPD sometimes may be the only sign for diseases like optic neuritis. So we should be very careful. Now regarding the lens, you can grade a cataract. Lens color, you may be familiar. You can grade the cataract according to the lens color. And also you should look for position. You can see the lens margin here. It may not be so obvious like this. You may have to dilate the pupil and see for the lens margin. And you should see whether it is a unilateral or bilateral. Bilateral, it can be associated with various syndromes. And unilaterally, most probably it may be due to trauma. Now coming to distant direct ophthalmoscopy, that is our next step. You can do it at a distance of 22 to 25 centimeter. You're seeing a direct ophthalmoscope or a plane mirror. And it is just we are projecting light into the eye, and we are looking at the reflected rays. So normally we get a red reflex like this, but if there is any media opacity, you get a black shadow against a red background. So the aim of distant direct ophthalmoscopy is to detect media opacities like cataract or vitreous haze, and you can get a gray reflex in retinal detachment, and you get sometimes a gross idea about the refractive status. Now, fundus examination can be done using a direct or indirect ophthalmoscopy. Nowadays, we are not preferring direct ophthalmoscope because of the close contact. So what will be the method? The most important is a disc. You should see for the color of the disc, you can compare, this is normal eye, this is the, you can see white color, the neuroretinal rim is pale. So it indicates optic atrophy. Then look for the disc margins. It is well defined here, and you can see it is blurred here. That indicates edema. So edema, it can be due to various reasons. You should look at it as unilateral or bilateral and manage accordingly. Now cupping. Cupping is you can see the central white area, that is the cup. Normal cup disc ratio is 0.3. And if we get an increase in vertical cup disc ratio, that is indicative of primary open angle glaucomas. So that we should, and also see for the new vessels over the disc. New vessels indicate ischemia that can be seen in diabetic retinopathy, ischemic little vein occlusions, etc. Now the vessels in the macula, you should identify which vessel. There are, say, arteries and veins. The artery can be seen by a central reflex like this, and veins are a little more darker color and more in caliber. You can have abnormalities like dilated and tortuous vessels. Then you can have narrowing of the arteries. The normal arteriovenous ratio is 2:3. Then regarding macula, the green circle indicates the macula, and the black circle is the fovea. And the center of the fovea, we get a foveolar reflex. So normally the macula shows a foveolar reflex, but sometimes in case of diabetes, you can get edema like this, you can get hard exudates. In CSR, there will be collection of fluid in the macular region. You can get a cherry red spot. These are some abnormalities seen in the macula. And just a word about pediatric examination. Make sure the child is awake and cooperative. Look for any nystagmus or gross abnormalities like microconia, microphthalmos. You can look at the Bruckner's reflex. It is just, we are using a direct ophthalmoscope to see for the red glow, red reflex. And the eye which is deviated shows a brighter reflex. So we can detect any mild deviation and look for the fixation of the eye. See whether the fixation is central, steady, and maintained. You can use some toys or bright colored objects. And if the fixation is poor, that means the child is having gross defective vision. And also you can look for following of objects. See whether the child is following these objects. And that also can be abnormal if the child is having defective vision. So the analysis of symptoms and signs can give, we can reach to a particular diagnosis. So that's all for now. Thank you.